Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to you. My name is Mark Drax. I sit on the board of SASH. And this afternoon, I have the great pleasure of meeting an entrepreneur called Jason Panda. Jason, I'm going to hand straight over to you and let you introduce yourself and what you do.
My name is Jason Panda. I'm the owner/founder of B Condoms. B Condoms is the only Black-owned, minority-owned condom company in the United States. I started the company in 2011. Basically as an initiative to be able to decrease the impact of HIV and AIDS, as well as teenage pregnancy, primarily amongst communities of color, which are disproportionately impacted here in the United States. Currently, we supply about a third of the country with their condoms for free distribution through partners like Planned Parenthood, through the county and state health departments, as well as available in retailers like the Walmarts of the world, Target, and CVS as well.
It's an incredible achievement. I mean, how long has this business been running?
11 years. Yeah, 11 years.
That's, talk about a sledgehammer blow to the condom world. That's an amazing achievement. I mean, if you had to pick one key driver that said, you wake up one morning and thought, I don't like being a lawyer anymore. I want to sell condoms. I mean, take us through that transition.
The transition was actually interesting for me. My background was in biology. So when I studied undergraduate, I was in biology. Thought I wanted to pursue the medical school route, but I hated the look of blood, right? So
really,
I can't deal with blood. All of that, like I'll leave that to somebody else, right?
Yeah, right. A doctor that doesn't like blood, that's not really going to work, is
it? So you want to have an impact, right? But like you're really not sure how to create an impact that's unique to kind of like what your interests are. So at that point, then I had a girlfriend. She was on her way to law school. So she was like, have you ever considered patent law? So then I went into biopharmaceutical patent law, protecting patents for like big pharma, right? So like all of their big drugs. Amazing in terms of being able to make money, but like terrible as a career. I was just bored out of my life, right? Like I was like, something had to give. So at that point, I looked at my background and kind of like the experience skill set that I had and kind of what I wanted to do. And I looked at different areas that I would be able to kind of like pursue and be able to build something long-term and sustainable. And I always like the less visible kind of products or whatever. Like, if somebody's building a house, I'm looking at the faucets, right? So like, that's always been my strategy. And when I looked around, I was like, wow, globally, people of color are primarily impacted by HIV. They're primarily impacted by, STIs, STDs. And, I looked and I was like, not enough of the sexual health information was actually driven by the corporate side, right? So like, you really didn't see people of color in a lot of ads. You really didn't see them. And this was earlier on. Like now it's a little bit more common. But at that point, there really wasn't even that visibility. So then I looked and I was like, I think there's an extraordinary opportunity to be able to have a condom company that would speak authentically to communities of color in a way that they can connect with, and also be able to communicate in sexual health practices, safe sex, HIV prevention, and the like amongst the broad community set. So that's kind of what drove it.
Well, what I really noticed about I think, I'm going to tell you what I think makes you different, and then you can tell me what you think makes you different. But I've got your website open on another screen on my left here. And what really touches me is that you are not just about condoms. You're about an entire culture. I mean, I've got on your website here some news goals. One of them says, B Condoms partners with Planned Parenthood to protect culture on college campuses across the country. B Condoms named one of the top 24 Black-owned wellness brands for healthy sex life and self-care. So this is not just about rubber. This is about a hell of a lot more. So tell us about that.
Yeah. To me, you have to take a whole body approach to it. And I think anybody that knows the brand, I would recommend you follow our Instagram page, because our Instagram page is definitely, it's sex positive. It's inclusive. It's multi-ethnic and multi-dimensional in terms of really how we approach the category. And I think one of the challenges, or one of the really gaps that I saw within the market, was everybody just looked at it like a condom, right? Like it's just kind of like a form of protection, right? But I think in order to really communicate and to connect, right, you really had to take in that whole experience, right? And you also had to bring in non-traditional partners, right? So, why can't, we speak about, outside of the like the nonprofits, or like, why can't we speak, like basketball players, and have them, talk about their experience traveling and how sex is incorporated in with, like, why can't we speak to the, adult porn actors, or like, and bring everybody to the table, right? And I think the approach that we're moving forward with, it's ethnic first, right? Because we're intentional about speaking to Black people, right? Like that part, I don't care if you're in the UK or in Germany or in the US, like that's who we're kind of intentional on being able to approach. But we want to make sure that everybody has a voice, right? Because I think what was missing is when everybody doesn't have a voice, whether you're straight, trans, gay, lesbian or whatever, you miss a lot of perspectives that are part of that community. And I think that's why, we bring in everybody. And part of the reason we partnered with Planned Parenthood is, they do incredible work. We're a long-term, closely aligned. They bring me in to, speak with their board and all of that type of stuff. But what I saw was missing was how they were connecting with communities of color, right? So they're on 2,000 campuses, right? But you have 100 historically Black college and universities here in the United States, where 60% of the people that are going on to grad school, that are going on to med school, that's where they come from. And I know that because I went to Morehouse. So like, I'm sure you heard of Martin Luther King, Samuel Jackson, like, we got a long history. So I had that experience, and I'm like, I love what you're doing, but let us be your conduit, because you're missing a segment of schools which need that further in-depth connection or whatever with what's really happening, right? Like we can't continue to take a mass market approach when some of them have to be kind of like nuanced in how we deal with them. And I think that's why, our strategy has really been successful, because we've been intentional about who we're dealing with, how we're dealing with them, and how we're going about it. Even our discussion with Target, I was fortunate, and Target is very intentional about, elevating, Black-owned brands or whatever right now, right? So even when we were working with Target, I was like, I put us in the stores that over-index in terms of the African-American community, right? Because right now we're not really doing a lot of mass marketing, and they're able to filter that, right? So then what that allows, it allows us to be able to touch, it's the 80-20, right? So we're able to touch, that 80% of the population, which, we're currently marketing to, and allows us to be able to grow further. But then in addition, Target went and put our company on their business partner council, which is kind of like, it's like a board position, right? For 3 years, where we help guide Target and their company on ways that they can be able to develop non-traditional entrepreneurs in areas outside of like hair care and areas around consumer product goods or whatever. So, it's been an extraordinary journey that hasn't been easy, but like, I think because I've always done it from an authentic place, and, I work really hard like everything else or whatever, but I think that's played a large role in our success.
Well, I have no doubt your legal background has enabled you to do things in a way which is professional and accurate and correct, perhaps quicker and more functionally than someone who doesn't have your legal background. So I'm guessing that's probably been a bonus, yes?
I would say yes and no. I think the legal background really helped when it came to government contracting.
Right.
And
okay.
I would say secondarily, it's helped when, I don't get intimidated by contracts or agreements, right? Where I think somebody that may not have it, may have a perspective that they're missing something, right? Or that, given I may not be 99 percentile legal or whatever, but I went to a good school, I had a basic experience, so I can maneuver myself through, 60 or 75% of the stuff on my own. But I think at the end of the day, the challenge that I had is we control the whole supply chain, right? Like I bring containers in from Malaysia, from Thailand. I had to teach myself that whole, like I can walk you right now from the rubber tree all the way down to the end consumer, right? Through every level. Like our condoms, they're pH friendly for the women, right? They're casein free, they're gluten free, they're nitrosamine free because they're vegan friendly and they're organic. And for me, I wanted to invest more in our product to make sure that when, you know, when people looked at our specs and when they looked at the actual like quality, they would know that, you know, we're better than anything else on the market. And
Well, you've actually just answered a question, but I want you to zero in on this if you want, because I was going to say what makes your product so special. So
yeah,
I mean, put that
and
question in there, but keep going.
yeah. So from us, I would say what makes us really different is 3 tiers, right? Number one, product, right? Like I invest a lot more heavily in our product than any of my competitors, right? So it's, you know, they're organic, they're vegan. And now what that really means is, and I want to be able to, because a lot of times people hear that, what does that really mean, right? I don't include animal products, right? I don't include, you know, parabens, casein, nitrosamines, gluten, glycerin, or spermicides. Now, let me tell you why that's important, right? And it's very basic concept that, you know, once you get it, it makes sense, right? You have natural raw latex, right? Now, what happens with my competitors, like, you know, their condoms will smell really bad, right? So everybody always talks about, you know, use condoms, smell like you've been burning rubber or whatever outside, right? That isn't necessarily because of the raw latex. It's these additives that they add into it, that a lot of the animal products that actually give that pungent, deep kind of bad smell, all right? So that's why our condoms, and that what that also causes a lot of times is the latex reactions that a lot of people think that they have to latex, right? It's a lot of times not actually the latex. It's these additives that my competitors are adding into the actual latex to make more condoms per unit of latex, right? So think if you got, like, let's say like our condoms are like 98%, 99%. If you're able to, you know, decrease that by 10% by including all of these with, and still have them be able to meet the required specifications, you know, you're getting a lot more condoms for your unit of latex. Mm-hmm. And that's what my competitors are doing, right? So when I say, you know, my condoms are better, right? And then what happens is it actually hurts the end consumer as well, because you have a lot of people out there that in their mind, they have a latex reaction. Well, why? Because they use latex condoms, their body burns, right? They don't know that it's not the latex. Less than 1% of the people, 1 or 2% of the people actually have real latex reactions. It's these additives, all right? So that's why a lot of people, when they use our condoms, all right, they're like, wow, you know, usually I would have like a latex reaction, but I don't have it when I use your stuff. I'm like, yeah, because we got a better product, all right?
I'm laughing. I'm laughing because it sounds so simple.
Yeah.
And it is. That's the irony.
It is, well, like once you get it, it makes perfect sense, right? So
it's never, what you've just said never even crossed my mind. I've never been inside a condom factory, so I don't know how they're made. And I'm gonna go on camera and admit something which you've just helped me solve. I don't like using the damn things because they do smell so horrible.
Yeah,
isn't that? There we are.
And you're not the only one, right? So like,
you've just got a new customer.
So when you think about like all of the people out there, and they didn't know why, because you have 3 companies that control 98%, 99% of the market, right? So
that's a massive hurdle. Surely that was a massive barrier to entry for you, no?
That's why it took me 10 years to finally get recognition, right? Like, and it's not by chance. Like, it took every ounce of fiber in my body, right? Every muscle, every ounce of blood to really make this work. And if we're speaking realistically, it shouldn't have, right? Number one, I'm not Reckitt Benckiser, right? Like they control the whole global market, including the UK, right? Billion-dollar company. Right? I'm not Church and Dwight. They control the US, another billion-dollar company with multiple different products across multiple categories. I was a disruptive startup that came at the market from an ethnic angle that everybody overlooked until now it's too late. Right?
Cool, so clever. I love it. I think you're amazing.
And so when I talk about how we're different, it was always rooted in 3 pillars. One was product, one was community, right? So that's why, like, you know, we started off having to go the nonprofit route, having to go the state route. Why? Because, you know, you're not required to do a lot of marketing, right? And with condoms, you make a small profit per unit, right? So you need a distribution. And if you don't have the market to compete in stores and every other place, you got to start somewhere. And because we cared about the community, we cared about HIV and AIDS, we cared about teenage pregnancy, we cared about human trafficking. These were always part and parcel of part of our kind of like core mission with the company, right? And then third is the ethnic angle, right? So we were looking to work within communities that were traditionally overlooked, right? Primarily African Americans, that's where I was from or whatever, right? But like that was kind of the three pillars that I said, okay, the journey may be arduous, it may be long, but at scale, this will, because in the US, at least, like if we're looking at the US market, 40% of the condom category are communities of color, primarily African American. We over-index in terms of our buying, right? So I looked at it long term and said, if I can, or when I do shift that market, it's going to be disruptive because the numbers don't lie, right? Like, that's why, I just stayed true to kind of what the mission was and kind of where our pillars stood. So.
You've probably answered this question in a roundabout way, but I want to ask you head on. Why is it necessary for a company like yours to exist?
There are a lot of people whose voices and whose experiences and whose personal sexual health and wellness will always be overlooked because it just isn't part of the business initiative, right? Like if everybody's competing for mass market and everybody's doing the 80-20 rule, who cares about the 20%?
Yeah.
Right. Like, and that's the reason why up until like, I was the first person to really put Black people on ads, right? Like it didn't exist when I first launched. Like one of the things that I like to really speak about is I was doing this work before it became popular, right? So like when I first started, it really wasn't even popular to have a Black owned company. So I used to actually put white people, right, practice shoots on our ads, right, and on our website because that was what was socially acceptable, right? Then what happened was, our godsend, right, or my company's godsend was during the protests of 2020, they realized that during the Obama administration, things had swung so much to one side because all of these corporations and big businesses had cover because you had a Black president, right? So any initiative that may have been able to support, they were like, why do we, like, everything must be good if we got a Black president, right? So that was what gave root to the Black Lives Matter, to the protest, to everything else, because if everybody had cover here at the nuanced ground level, there was no support. There was little to no support. And then what happened is when everybody looked up and you had the protests going all across the country, you had the actual shining of a light to how all of these communities, including the African American, had just been specifically defunded. There were no money in these areas, right? All of a sudden, then they're like, how do we course correct, right? And part of this course correction became to how can we actually see who's been out here doing the work and who has the capacity, and why weren't they given opportunities? Like I'd been knocking on the door forever. No one wanted to listen, right? Like, but now that they are, now we're getting opportunities that I could have only really dreamed about. So that's why, within the last 2 years was when we went into places like Walmart, when we went into places like CVS, when we're going into places like Target. And I think that's all because the market realized the necessity for there to be added voices outside of the one mainstream voice that had been existing for like the last, 50 years or so.
It's so courageous, Jason. Was there any pushback from some of these big companies like Target, Walmart, CVS?
Like prior to like the pandemic or now?
When you first approached them?
Oh, yeah. It was all pushback. Was it pushback? We weren't even provided the opportunity to be able to get an honest discussion.
Really?
Right. And I won't name a specific, I don't want to call anybody out or whatever, because at the end of the day, now they're my partners.
Right. No, I'm not asking you. I'm not asking you to name and shame.
But I will tell you, when we met with one of the largest pharmacies here in the US, right? at first they laughed at the concept of Black people buying condoms, right? Because no, and then they laughed at the idea of like there maybe they didn't laugh at it, but they kind of like what are you actually talking about? Are your condoms good? Are they real? Where are you getting them? Like you had to go through all of that, right? But then even beyond then, you know, when they actually came forward with an offer, they have, 9,000 stores all across the US. You want to know what the offer was? Make a wild guess. If I'm going to test you out,
right?
Right,
let me guess.
9,000 stores.
Let me guess. They said we'll try it in our local store down the road in one store.
Exactly, spot on.
Seriously?
Swear to God, on my life.
That was a total guess. And Jason, you and I have never met before, so that was really from the heart guess.
Yeah. So I walked out of there like kiss my ass in the car you came in.
Unbelievable.
It was like spitting in my face. I brought me and my whole team down, spent thousands of dollars on presentation, thousands of dollars on reporting, thousands of dollars on data, right? To validate what we were actually doing, why it was working, why it was necessary. And they literally said, I will give you one store down the street. And depending upon their, we'll maybe have another talk in a year.
And so what then?
And then said, you ought to be happy just to be able to get into the door. Because nobody like you is even able to get into that door.
Wow. I mean, this
and that's not alone. Like I could tell you so many stories that I've had over the last 10 years. I got rejected to 14 banks when I first won my first big government contract, right? Black-owned banks and white-owned banks, right? And what I realized, it wasn't the business performance, because we've always been profitable. It wasn't, it wasn't the product, it was the face, right? Yeah. So what did I do? I hired a senior consultant, older white guy, who then presented the same business, same opportunity without me being there, to 3 banks and got 3 offers.
Seriously.
This is real. So but no one wants to speak about the challenges that exist within how the infrastructure is kind of currently built, right? Like, so that's why, when I tell you, I was like, I shouldn't be here, but for some extraordinarily savvy / just relentless, fight in that I had in me, right? And that I was gonna find a way, because this to me was bigger than me. So it hasn't been an easy road by any, even now, right? Like I'm extraordinarily successful when it comes to pitching to retail and all of this. But what did I have to do? I got the business to a certain level and then recruited a retired exec from another condom company, right? Like some knowledge you just need to pay for, right? But you got it. But you realize at the level that I want to play, it's economic. It's past color. Like, anybody can tell you, like, even within any race, any ethnicity, like there are levels, right? Like, and the biggest level is who has the money, right? So how I'm really looking to disrupt this is, I'm past the point at which color is an issue, right? Now it's what's the bottom line look like, right? And like in certain knowledge, you need seasoned people, and you need to also have like a deeper strategy for how it works. And, I can't say, where we're going to be in 5 or 10 years. I don't know. We may get to the point at which, there are levels even above where I want to go, right? Like, so we may get to one level and be like, all right, we're capped out, because we'll never be able to allow, like, it's not because we're Black, it's not because, but the systems that exist will never allow you to get to a certain level, which is true, and which I'm now beginning to see, just in terms of retail growth here in the US.
Well, Jason, I couldn't begin to advise you on anything, as you've done so well, but the only piece of straight up advice I would give you is never say never, because you've proven already that with your tenacity that you can break through glass ceilings like with a sledgehammer. So I would just say, keep going. On your social media, there's a big push all around the sexual health. How are you, well, I think you've already explained why it's important to you, but if you want to say it again, how are you doing? How do you see that this growing and taking it to minority groups? How are you going to use social media to really push yourself forward?
That's actually a really, really good question. And I think, I don't know what the education system is like in the UK, but I can tell you here, right? There are really three groups of education. If we're thinking about, you have reproductive health, right? You have STI and STDs, and then you have sexual health, right? The schools and education system here have always left out sexual health and that priority list of educating people on STDs and STIs, and educating people on like what happens when you have a baby, right? Like teenage pregnancy. So I think when it comes to sexual health, so many people there was such lacking options for really where they could go and attain that information, right? Most of it, they couldn't get to schools because schools are abstinence only, all right? Parents, there's always that kind of awkward discussion in terms of, how am I fully able to have that sex discussion, with my child or whatever? How do I know when they're ready? So what it then results in is a generation and multi-generations of people looking to their peers, looking to the internet, looking to, any other source that they can get to be able to ask real relevant questions around sexual health. How can you be better at sex? How can you last longer at sex? What does good sex mean, right? How do you please your partner, all right? So as innovative as just having that discussion is, when you incorporate that into social media and you put a black face on it, these are discussions that never occurred in our culture, right? And I think what I've been able to do is, because take that mantle and say, I'm creating a safe space, right? Whether you're straight, whether you're gay, whether you're trans, whether you're whatever, and we're going to talk about sex from a factual perspective, right? And if you want to argue the facts. Like, you can't argue the platform. And I think because of that, what I've been able to do is develop some extraordinarily engaging content around sexual health, right? And the content, to me, it's extraordinary because I see how much it's shared, right? Like, if I like, we're in a way, like, we have more followers than, Trojan. We have more followers than like Durex or like, and you're talking about billion-dollar companies, right? And we're coming at it from an education perspective, where the majority of our posts are educating and speaking about sexual health and sexual wellness. And that's part of the reason that, because our approach, it's also made us a lot more tight-knit with the nonprofit community, with the state health departments and the county health departments, because they have people get degrees in social communication, health communication, right? And they're not able to get the level of engagement that we have, right? So everybody's trying to figure out, like, how are you able to have a unique, relationship with the people that actually educates them, and you're doing what we should be doing, what we get millions of dollars to do, that they were never able to do. And I think because the way education is set up, so many times people are just taught one way to go about things, right? So if you're trained that one way, you're never kind of thinking outside the box. Whereas in everything that I've been able to do, we've come from a non-traditional approach, and I brought in a new perspective to it. And that's why I think, like, as long as we continue to focus on being authentic, focusing on the people, looking at our 3 pillars and continuing to build around that, sky's the limit. Like, and I know right now we have 30,000 followers, we get, 2,000, 5,000 or whatever likes on each of our posts, which is incredible. But a year now, if we're having a similar discussion, it wouldn't surprise me if I'm at 50, 75,000 followers, right? Because the engagement shows the need. It shows that people want the knowledge, right? And now all we're trying to do now is elevate the number of touches, the number of impressions that we get to put that information in front of more people. And the more people see it, the more people are going to join this community. And later on, we're going to have a whole community built around sexual health and wellness that we can then leverage to be able to move these discussions that have kind of been stagnant or only in pockets to much broader, much greater visibility.
The word that's coming up a huge amount as I'm listening to you talk is the word stigma. And what I hear you doing, I love your comment on this, but what I hear you doing is, through your authenticity, you are destroying the stigma, which has prevented millions of people in your country and mine, and God knows how many others, from actually doing what you're talking about, which is talking. People enjoy sex. But for a long, long time, large percentages of the religious element of this insane planet have demonized sex. And what that's done is it's put us back so far, left so many cultures, even entire countries, hiding in corners, thinking that it is bad and it should only be used to procreate and anything else is sinful. I'm sure you understand the chakra system. The second chakra is a sexual chakra. It's probably recognized as the most powerful. In other words, you've got a huge amount of natural energy wanting to go somewhere. But if you're stuffing it in a box because society and stigma says it's evil or sinful, or you shouldn't do it, or if you masturbate, you're bad or whatever, all that energy is going to go somewhere. And you know where it goes? It goes into beating women. It goes into abusing children. It goes into illegal pornography. That's where the energy goes when you suppress it for the wrong reason. I herald your ability to get people talking about something which fundamentally is so beautiful. And let's not forget the fact that you and I are talking because two people had sex.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. At the end of the very basic.
That's a bit of a passionate me saying, I so love what you're doing because it's destroying the stigma that we've lived with since the Pilgrim Fathers really metaphorically screwed up your country, and Queen Victoria and her court screwed up mine.
Yeah, but no, I think you're spot on. And I think how I'm trying to go about it is to not only wipe out stigma, but stigma as it impacts a lot of different communities as well, right? Like me, I'm a straight black guy or whatever, right? But you know why I think that, you know, it's ample time that, like, but it doesn't impact me if somebody's gay. It doesn't impact me if somebody's trans. It doesn't bother me at all, right? So like, and I think the majority of us are probably pretty similar or whatever. Like, let people do whatever they do sexually as long as it's two consenting adults, right? And knowing and it's what they want to do within the close quarters. No one cares, right? So I think even how I approach our social media is, if you have an issue with that, that's you in your own, that's you in your own holdup. But it has no place here. All right. And if you like one of the videos that we uploaded dealt specifically with what you're saying, like what impact did church and religion have? And you, like the one kid who was like just a young regular gay kid or whatever, he talked about how his preacher told him, oh, you're gonna have a car accident, and if this girl is with you, she's never gonna be able to walk again, and 1 year from now you're gonna be abandoned, and all like craziness. Like, and it's like, but you know, people are only speaking about these issues in small quarters because they never feel like there's a safe space to actually talk about sex, right? Like, it's not dirty, like what you said. It's beautiful. Yeah. It should be enjoyed. It should be welcome. It should be honored, right? Like, so let's really go about it from that perspective. And that's what I think, you know, what we're trying to do as a brand, right? And then of course, behind that, I can merge in the condom, right? Like, yeah, do all of this and have better sex when you use our condom, right? But bigger than the condom, it's this discussion, it's this movement, it's the validity that this information is needed and necessary and has a place not only in the US, but all across the world.
Yeah. And by the way, I've just realized something. I said on camera that you and I are only talking because two people had sex. Actually, I should have said four. So, let me just clarify that for the audience in case they clock that one. Otherwise, that would be a whole interesting conversation.
Yeah, not at all.
Jason, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. I mean, clearly we could probably talk all day, but you must get on and do what you're doing beautifully. Is there anything finally you would like to say to this audience, to put out there in terms of your mission, where anything coming up in your near future, to summarize what you're doing here, which I think is incredible?
What I would say is, you know, we're looking for new partners, right? I'm looking to see how we can play a bigger role and a bigger impact. You know, we have the for-profit and the nonprofit side as well. We do an incredible job around sexual health communication. And so if people are looking for a relatable, authentic, you know, partner, whether it's condoms or through the education, let us know. We're willing to, we're you know, the same type of way we work with Planned Parenthood, we're looking for other partners.
Amazing.
If people are looking for ways to be able to incorporate, how do you speak to diverse communities, right? Let us know. Like, you know, I got 10 years of experience dealing specifically with these communities. And the funny thing is my following comes from the UK. Our following comes from Nigeria, comes from the US. Like, where even though, you know, where we've been kind of specific in where we're located here in the United States, you know, we get followers from all over the world. So, you know, and it's something I'm passionate about. So, you know, if you want to work with us, just let us know. You can go to bcondoms.com. You can follow us on Instagram at B Condoms. We're getting ready to start up our TikTok, and we're super excited about that because, you know, TikTok has a lot of younger students and kids or whatever who genuinely need the information as well. So I'm super excited about that. But then support us, you know,
I think
support us and that's it.
I think the young probably need it the most because they need somewhere where they can feel safe, where they know they're not being conned or groomed, and where they can talk about things, which is, if the young start talking about this in a healthy way early and don't let themselves believe that pornography is sex education, all right, they won't end up smacking around and beating up their 17-year-old girlfriend when they first lose their virginity and think that their first girlfriend should behave like the lady behaved in the hardcore video they watched when they were 13. So I so am thrilled that you're providing a platform and a safe space for all ages, but the young in particular, because the young are our future generations.
And through that we can guide and be able to kind of like, you know, I kind of call it protect the culture, but we can guide where it leans towards the next 10, next 20, next 50 years, right? Like, and I think that's the bigger goal. Like when I look at everything, like, you know, even earlier, like when we talk about the Chinese, we talk about like my vision was never, you know, and I think that's why I was able to go through so many trials and tribulations during the early years, because it was never about, you know, what happens now, what happens this year, what happens next year. To me, this is my calling, right? So this is kind of like, I'm looking 20 years, 30 years, 50 years out to say, how can I help change this arc to make it more inclusive, to wipe out as much stigma, to basically make my biggest impact as it relates to people and you know, their sexual wellness.
You're an amazing fellow. I think Leah told me that you are actually even doing some specific stuff around the Atlanta area. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Yep. So August 20th, we're partnering up with the Fulton County, the Cobb County, sort of three major health departments in the area, as well as Gilead Sciences. They make, you know, PrEP or whatever, the big drug or whatever. And then we're going to be doing a massive HIV testing campaign where we're looking to get as many people tested. We're going to have, you know, celebrities, food trucks, you know, we're going to have a stage with like, where we're going to have a panel, we're going to have artists performing, you know, vendors and community organizations, where it's going to be it's going to be a pretty big deal, right? Like, and it's August 20th, which commemorates Southern HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, which is, you know, one of the newer awareness days here that we have in the United States, and that's going to be in Atlanta. You know, it's a completely free event, and we're giving away a car.
You're blowing my mind. You know, I just realized that, you know, you are going to become a condom rapper. Do you realize that? You're going to become more famous than any rapper in the history of your country through condoms, not even through singing. I mean, I just think it's mind blowing. Jason, you're clearly an amazing fellow. Obviously your legal background has helped, but I think your passion is what has shone to me whilst talking to you today. So I can't thank you enough. We have our annual conference in Atlanta in October. I very much hope you'll. I'd love to meet you in person.
No, dinner on me.
Jason, thank you so much for your precious time. You clearly work very, very hard. So you get back to what you're doing amazingly. And I just want to say massive thank you, and I'll see you in Atlanta.
All right, thanks a lot. Look forward to meeting you in person.
Jason, you're awesome. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.